Greetings, everybody. Welcome once again to the RecPoker podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredland, and as always, we are joined by our illustrious panel. And so far tonight, we have the magnificent Jim Reed, the wonderful Rob Washam, the amazing Andrew Feist, and the nicest guy in poker who likes to 3-bet me, John Somsky. So thanks to you guys. Thanks to our official sponsor, Running Aces Racetrack Casino and Hotel, and our other podcast sponsors, Learn Pro Poker and Website AMP. This is episode 182, and we're going to be joined very shortly by Carlos Welch, who I'm really excited to chat with. But before we get to Carlos, real quick, two things we want to make sure that you're aware of. You go to the rec.poker/resources page. There's a new special deal out there for Learn Pro Poker. Go check that out. And also, you can get 1 week free of Core by going to redchippoker/RecPoker and using the code RecPoker. So with that, let's bring in first-time guest, Carlos Welch. Carlos, how are we?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, I hear people keep saying, hey, you got to have Carlos on your show. You got to have Carlos on your show, and you're finally here. So I'm glad we're able to make it work out.
Happy to be here.
Now, you are, from my understanding, you're a frequent guest on the Thinking Poker podcast. You've been on other podcasts as well. You're involved in the Tournament Poker Edge. You're an MTT grinder. You're a poker coach. You're a writer. But you bring this unique perspective on how you live your life. And I think that's why I'm excited to chat with you. So let's talk a little bit about just high level. Who the heck are you? Who's Carlos Welch? Why should we care? Introduce yourself to the folks at RecPoker Nation.
Well, I don't know why most people care about Carlos, but what I learned. This is a funny story. So you mentioned the Thinking Poker podcast, and Andrew Brocas, one of the hosts of that show, is a good friend of mine, and he and I are hanging out in Vegas last year before that. Can't remember exactly which year it was, but LeBron's team, I don't even know which team he was on at the time, but they were in the finals, and he was invited to a finals watching party, and he invited me to come along with him. So I drove. At the time, I had a van. So I had a van, aka the Knitmobile, and I drove us over there, and we went in to watch the game, and he introduced me to these guys, and like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And it was just normal stuff. And then we got to talking, and Andrew was like, yeah, Carlos lives in his van. And they're like, wait, you're the guy with the van? And then they got all excited. So they wanted to go out. They rushed outside. Is it here? And they wanted to go meet the van. So I think the van was more popular than I was. So that's pretty much my calling card in poker is I moved into a van a couple of years ago to travel around playing poker, writing about poker, coaching poker. And recently I switched the van out for a Prius. So now I'm pretty much the poker player in the Prius, and that's what people know me for.
Now, is that primarily just because you wanted a little bit more leg room, or why'd you switch it out for the Prius?
Because during that summer, or maybe it was the summer before, the first time I drove so I'm originally from Atlanta, but the first time I drove the van out to Vegas, I stayed in it during the summer, and I slept in 95-degree heat at midnight in the van. Didn't work out too well. With the Prius, with it having an electric motor, I can run the AC overnight. So that was the thing with the van, with the Prius. The reason I switched to the Prius, I can run air conditioning all night. The engine doesn't need to be on the whole time for that. And also I got an inverter installed to the secondary battery so I can plug up my monitor and sit it on the passenger side. So I'm just, parked in the desert and playing 4 to 6 tables of online poker and sleeping in this car.
I love it. So Tell us a little bit about the journey to that. Like, how did you end up getting to that point where you're saying, you know what, I don't want to have an apartment or a house or whatever. I want to live out of a vehicle. What was sort of the journey that brought you to that point?
Black Friday. So if we all remember Black Friday, I had a couple of $1,000s locked up on Full Tilt at the time. And also at the time, I was a middle school math teacher. And so I had the summer off in 2011, and I was trying to find a way to get my money off of Full Tilt. So I got this bright idea to move to Jamaica for the summer and switch my residence in Full Tilt because they were still paying out rest of the world players, just not Americans. So I went to Jamaica. I've signed like a 1-month lease on this villa. And the whole time I was in Jamaica, at the time I lived in a house that I was buying. So I had to pay that mortgage. And I was in Jamaica in the summer paying rent there while also paying mortgage on an empty house. And so when I got back that next year, I decided to basically do poker full time and traveling. And I thought I didn't want to go out to the World Series of Poker and have to pay this mortgage on this empty house and circuit events. So I left the house and initially moved into a extended stay hotel. Now, when I mention this, a lot of people don't seem to know what those are, but my mortgage was around $1,000 a month with utilities and all that stuff on top of it. The hotel I moved into was around, I think at the time, like $160 a week, including all the utilities. And whenever I traveled for poker, I didn't have to pay for the room like I had to pay the mortgage for the house. So I did that for a couple of years. And after WSOP 2015, I came home, or back to the room, which was home, in Atlanta, and the rent went up. I think it went from like 160 to like 200 a night. And now I think they're up to like 250. Some of them are like 350 a night. And before I decided to go back to the room, I just kind of had the fleeting thought that, all I do is sit in this room every day, play poker, write about poker, study poker. I can do this in a van. And I was like, wait, why wouldn't I do it in a van? So I had the thought, and probably like 2 to 3 weeks later, I had the van, and I just did it.
Yeah.
No kids, no pets, no. I don't have a girlfriend or a wife, so it wasn't. And I'm kind of a crazy person anyway, so it wasn't that big of a leap for me to do it. I've met so many people that say they would love to do it, but they just have so many other things. It's a lot easier for a single guy with no kids to kind of jump into that.
So somebody that hasn't seen you for a while talks to one of your buddies and says, "Hey, what's Carlos up to?" And they're like, "Oh, he's living in a van." They're like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah. Yeah. It's completely normal for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's no pets at all? I mean, go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just gonna say it's an inspiration for a lot of us poker players, because when I talk to people about Carlos, it's just like dieting and working out. Like if you want to be in shape, you can do a lot of exercise and work out all the time, or you can just eat less. And I think that's the same way we look at our finances like this. Like Carlos is like, I don't want to go out there and I don't want to go out there and do a bunch of this other work, making money. I want to focus on the poker stuff that I love. And I'm just going to come up with a way to spend less in a month instead of making more, and be free to do whatever I want all the same time. I mean, it's phenomenal. Hats off to you, sir.
And also, thank you. Also, with the theme of the podcast, RecPoker, I'm not that good at poker. So if I needed to pay a mortgage and some car note and pay for some kid and a wife, and I don't know if I could do this for a living if I didn't cut my expenses.
Mm.
So, I've basically found a way to be a rec poker player for a living by cutting the expenses.
Love it. John, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention it's been a fascinating journey to. I was going to say watch, but more accurately, it would be to listen to.
Yes.
Because I think most people agree that when you are on Thinking Poker podcast, it's one of the favorite episodes of that series. Not that they have a bad one, but you're kind of a special guest star when you come on, and it's been really interesting listening to you mature over the years. You can tell you've gotten better, more confident with your play, and you are always, even though you're on there with Andrew, and who if I were on that podcast with him all the time, I'd be quite intimidated. You feel confident with when you get into areas of saying, no, on the games I play here on Bovada, these low stakes, this is what I can do here, even though that may not make sense in the games that you play in. So it's been a fascinating journey to listen to, as I said.
Yeah, I call myself faux host of the podcast as opposed to a co-host. FAUX. Yeah, I think I've done, might be like 15 episodes now of that show. So I'm definitely comfortable with Nate and Andrew, and these guys are my real life friends. So it's a lot easier to not feel intimidated because of that. And I just know, being a math teacher myself, being intimidated in a setting where you're there to learn is probably one of the biggest roadblocks to learning. You can't feel like asking questions and speaking up and like giving your opinion, even though they may or may not be wrong, is not a stupid thing to do. And it was like pulling teeth to get, my math students to understand that. Nobody wanted to raise their hand. They didn't want to be seen as the stupid kid. But I have no problem being seen that way, because not being willing to ask those questions is how you remain stupid. And so, you got access to Nate and Andrew, like, why not, soak up that knowledge? And, but you're right. I definitely don't mind giving my take on the games that I have more experience in than they do.
Carlos, one of the things I've really enjoyed listening to you talk about, it's in relation to sort of the living in a van or living in a car. It's like, it's sort of like, how do I optimize this experience? How do I make sure that I'm like getting the most out of it? And the most fascinating conversations I've heard you have are some of those ones about game selection. And I think you've been a little cagey about, which games you'll go and target in Vegas while everyone's going to play this shiny object. You're going to try to find the unshiny object, really. And I, without giving out all your secrets, I'm wondering if you can just talk in general about that idea of game selection and what that means to you as a player who's trying to find games that are profitable rather than sort of glitzy.
Got you. I actually have a very current example for this topic. My goal, first of all, I am playing poker for the money. I enjoy poker, but it's not something I would do for free. And sometimes playing against good players almost feels like you're doing it for free. Like if I'm going to play against good players, it's going to be poker snowy, where it doesn't cost me anything to lose. And so, but if we're playing for money, I want to find the worst players I can find to play against for the most money that I can play against them within my bankroll. And what as far as the current example is this, you guys know the last 3 months now have been kind of crazy for online poker because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was grinding on Ignition, and pretty much the highest stakes on the site, because for whatever reason on that site, as you move up in stakes, the players don't get better. So I was grinding the highest stakes on the site, and all of a sudden, the field sizes started to like triple. And it's because all the live guys are like forced online now. Now, this kind of snuck up on me. I didn't see it happening. And so one thing you learn is that the bigger the field size is, the more variance you have. And you kind of find yourself basically playing for the experience in a way. Basically, you get, you play 1,000 player field. The most likely outcome is you're going to get your buy-in back and maybe a little gas money. But that's about it. And I'm not really interested in that. I play tournaments for final tables. And it's harder to make final tables in bigger fields. So even though these fields are still soft, and they're probably actually softer because they're, in general, when the field size increases, the average player is going to be worse. I'm not playing for EV. I'm playing for actual dollars. And so what I had to do is, for game selection, if I wanted smaller field sizes, which I did, I had to drop down in stakes on that site because they did not offer, like the ideal tournament for me on that site would be like a 109 10K. That's going to have about 100 players in it. But they don't offer many tournaments like that. And so before I was playing tournaments, I can't even remember the guarantees in that. I mean, it seems like ages ago, but it was actually only like 3 months. So like, one example is they run this $55 25K. I hate that tournament because it was bad before the pandemic, but now I think it was getting like 500 or 600 runners, and now it's getting like 1,500. I think it might even got 2,000 a couple of times. And I can't play those tournaments anymore because the field sizes are so far out of control. So what I realized is that since the field sizes are basically tripling, I wanted to find something that would normally get around 100 runners and then play those. Like I said, a 109 10K, which they don't offer many of. But they do offer a decent number of $33 3Ks or $44 4Ks. So I dropped down in stakes and played those just to kind of keep the field sizes and variance down. And while everybody else was going the other direction, like you're telling me that $55 25K is getting like 75K in the prize pool now, and there's 25 for first, let me play that. And 99.9% of those people walk away unhappy unless they just enjoy the experience of playing a tournament, which I don't. I'm there for the final table. I'm there for the money. And if that's what you're looking for, you need small fields, not bigger fields.
I love just the idea of just knowing what your ultimate goals are. I think we talk about that quite a bit. If you don't really know why you're playing, it's hard to optimize your experience and your tournaments or your cash or whatever it is. So I think that's such a critical point to take out of this, is know what you're ultimately trying to do and be honest with yourself about what that is. Andrew,
Yes.
Did you have something there?
Yeah, I was reading an article that you wrote about bad beats, and I just really liked part of it where, it's a true bad beat, queens losing to jacks, that kind of thing. And instead of, the last line really gets me, it's where it's, instead of cursing to the heavens, we should thank our lucky stars for this opportunity and start looking for more. I love that attitude. That is, when I read that last line, that made the whole article, like, it was great, but that last line was awesome. And what do you do to try and stay in that mindset? Because the grind can get to everyone, obviously.
Just play with worse players. Like, just keep finding worse players. And what I tell my students, and in fact, I got a couple of students right now complaining about it, which reminds me of myself 5 years ago complaining about it, which is, man, every time I get it in with a good hand, I lose. Oh, these idiots keep sucking out on me and all this kind of stuff. And the mantra that I'm telling these guys is a volume game. You have to get in more spots like that. Yeah, you're going to lose your fair number of spots where, you're getting it in as an 80% favorite it may feel like you're losing 60% of the time, but if you do that, if you run that spot, a million times, then yeah, it's going to feel like you're losing it 20% of the time because that's reality. And so if you're trying to like avoid the tilt that comes from getting bad beat, you just got to keep getting it in good. Get it, try to get it in good twice as often or 10 times as often as you currently are, and that'll go away. But that's hard to do when you're playing against good players. So you need to find more bad players and improve your skills to find more spots to get those players to put in their money bad against you, which was basically what the article was about.
Yeah, because you mentioned something on playing a hand with Maria Hone where you lost queens versus her ace king, and you said the same thing. You're never going to get 5-bet shoved with 6-5 from her anyway, so you got to find the bad players. I like that.
Yeah, that hand was in the 2016 main event on day 3. And it was so funny because all my buddies were like in the hall of the Rio. And, I'm all getting prepared for day 3. And I had like 50 bigs. That was a pretty decent stack. So I'm ready to go in there and do my thing. And I went in. And I think I came back in like 15 minutes with a smile on my face. And I'm out. And it was like, you're joking, right? And I'm like, no, man. I lasted like an orbit and a half. But it was basically a situation where I opened queens, she 3-bet ace king, I 4-bet, she jammed, I called, and I lost. But it was early enough in the day where I didn't feel like I bubbled because the bubble doesn't burst until like the end of that day. But it was also like I got a chance to make day 3 and I didn't bubble and I got it in good against a good player. So I left happy, even though I lost $10,000 in 15 minutes. But yeah, it was a situation that could have been, a lot of people would look at that as a negative, but that's one of, like, when I think about some like happy moments that I remember in my poker career, that's one of them. Is like, that was a good experience, I think. If you're going to bust a main event, that's the way to do it, in my opinion. If you're going to
That's awesome.
bubble, if you're not going to cash the main event, that's the way to do it.
Right. No, it's good stuff. Well, one of the things, Carlos, we love to do, and I'd love to talk more about your story just in general, but one of the things we always try to do is an element of the strategy side for the folks that are listening to the podcast. So if you don't mind, Chris has a hand that we'd love to have you break down a little bit.
Okay.
All right, Carlos. Well, this is not your favorite type of player because these are not bad players, but we're in a 100K high roller that was on Poker Go. I was just watching it recently, and I think this is something we can all kind of relate to because it's that kind of point in a decision tree where you're kind of wondering, how do I hang on here, and how often do I hang on? Do I need to hang on here with a hand like this? So. Just to give you a little context, there's 10 players remaining. There's 2 tables of 5 players, and only the top 6 get paid. So we're not in the money yet. We're at a table of 5 players.
Okay.
And so the blinds are 8K, 16K, and with a 16K big blind ante. And we're first to act under the gun or a hijack in this. And we've got a pretty decent stack of 1.4 million. And we have Queen of Clubs, Jack of Hearts. And in this case, I don't think there's anything to argue about this, but we opened this to a min open to 32K. And I kind of want to get post flop because I think there's not much to argue with here because the button and the big blind call us. And so we're going 3-way to a flop. And the flop is 8 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, Jack of diamonds, and the big blind checks. So what we've got top pair, not a great top pair, but a pretty decent one on this board. There's 2 diamonds. We do not have a diamond. What's our move here?
So we already screwed up when we registered 100K high roller. But if we were dropped to here by a time machine,
yeah.
I guess so. First of all, we have to try to think and play as close as we can to GTO. And I think this is a wet board, and keep in mind that I'm way out of my league trying to play GTO, but I think with this board being wet, 3-handed, but we do have this big stack. And would you consider, is this even considered a bubble when there's 10 left and 6 pay? Are we even at the bubble yet?
Yeah, we're getting close. We're getting close. Oh, and I should have mentioned the button has 585K, so we outstack both players. The big blind has an even a smaller stack, had about 320K, so we've got both of them well covered.
Gotcha. So what I would say is normally this is what I think GTO says. When the board is wet like this, normally we want to use a bet less often and with a big sizing. But this might be a special case because we should have additional fold equity being on the bubble, especially of 100K, or approaching the bubble of 100K, and against 2 players we cover. So my first thought was like, is this hand even strong enough to bet? But with the extra fold equity, maybe it will be. And since we're betting more than we normally would, we would choose a smaller size than normal. Like when I first saw this, I would think, okay, we're gonna bet like 2/3 pot on a board like this. But now that feels a little iffy with this hand, so maybe we use this as a high frequency check. But since we're gonna bet here because of the extra fold equity and we're betting a lot, I would probably bet like, I don't know, 3rd pot, something along those lines.
Well, that's really close to what this is. So this is Igor Kurganov, by the way, if you know who that is. And
yes,
so he does bet. He bets about he bets 38K. So you're pretty much spot on with the 3rd pot. And the button calls, and the big blind folds. So now we're heads up, out of position. We got top pair, and the turn is the 6 of diamonds. So again, the board is now 8 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, jack of diamonds, and 6 of diamonds. And we hold queen of clubs and jack of hearts.
So
and it checks to us. Or no, yeah. Or no, sorry, we check.
The first act.
Yeah. So do you think we should check here?
When the diamond comes in, that's definitely a better card for the caller's range than ours. So I think this is a pretty uncontroversial check on the turn.
Agreed. And so we do check. And now the button leads out for 126K.
Do we know the pot size here?
So we're around, let me see, we're around 90. This is a
feels like a big bet.
So 175.
It's
like 60%, I think.
Yeah, 60 to 70% of the pot.
And this guy seems to be setting up a river jam. So I think I think we definitely have to call with top pair here, especially well, actually hurts us not to have a diamond here. Normally you don't want to like block bluffs, but you don't want to block flush draws, but you do want to block flush draws when the flush gets there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is less of a call than it would be if we had a diamond, obviously, but I still think it's probably too high up in the range to fold. I just don't know what the hell to do on the river. So
right. Well, that's where we're getting to.
Yeah, I think this is this is why I like online poker. Like this is a sigh call, and I can like actually sigh and call if I was playing online. But live, this is like pretend you're not sighing.
Yeah. Hold in the sigh and call.
Yeah. So that's what I would do here.
Okay. Well, we do call, and the river is the 7 of clubs. So the final board is 8 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, jack of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, and 7 of clubs. We check, which I think is not controversial, and the button shoves.
I mean,
But how much is the shove though, Chris? How much does he have? He doesn't have a. How much is behind? Is that even
He
pot
had
size?
585 to start, so yeah,
60, so three. So the pot's like 400 and some. He's shoving like 300 some.
Yep,
Somewhere in that
yep,
ballpark.
yep, yeah. It's a little under pot.
So obviously he has some flushes. Does he have any value hands beside flushes that he would play this way? Doesn't matter because I don't think he has anything. He doesn't have any value that we beat. He's not going to do this with like Jack 10, I don't think. And if he is, he's turning into a bluff probably, which this guy's probably not going to do that. What bluffs does he have? So we open and this guy called on the button off of like 35 bigs.
Mm-hmm.
Man. See, this is why I play against idiots.
See, this is all bringing us back to your game selection thing, which I love. I mean, it's
Right,
like,
I know.
like what, the first thing you said was, first of all, I wouldn't be caught in this game at all. So,
yeah, man, I like this is an easy fold in the games I play. Easy fold, but you actually have to think about stuff here. He would have to be turning a pair into a bluff, or what's he doing with like ace? He doesn't have ace jack. I mean, if he has ace jack, is he shoving that for value? He's not shoving that for value. Yeah, I don't know. That's the answer to this question. I don't know, and I'm not even sure if I'm thinking about the right things. I know I would probably fold. I think this hand boils down to what our flop betting range is. I think the flop bet is so unorthodox, especially being a small size on a wet board and also being out of position. We're kind of like in an unexplored branch of the game tree here, like it's not a standard area to be in. So I think that's what I'm having so much trouble with it, is understanding what our range to get to this point looks like, and what Villain thinks about that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what the hell to do here.
well, Igor does fold. I'd be curious. Anyone even on the panel? Anyone calling this?
It'd be tempted to call just because after I underrepresent my hand in this way, and if I've still got 800 behind. I guess it's player dependent. I guess, how capable are they of making this? Like Carlos said, I love what he said about in the games that I play. It's an easy fold because most players that are less experienced are incapable of making that sort of play. But the river card seems innocuous, but it's not really. Like if this guy's turning, he's got one of the draws, the diamonds get there, the 9-10 gets there. Like what else does he have here that he's floating with on the flop? I guess 2 overs or something, kind of, with back doors with a 1/3 size pot. But it feels very heavily weighted toward value. But depending on how capable I think they are of turning a bluff into a, or pocket threes or pocket fours or something into a bluff, that's where it comes out of. But it's super tight for me.
I mean, like ace king, ace queen, he probably 3-bets pre.
Yeah, right.
Ace jack, he's probably, I mean, is he betting that for value on this river? On the bubble? I don't know, man. He might even 3-bet that hand pre. I don't know. So what? King queen? King queen, does he have like, and man, I don't know.
Yeah, does he float that flop with one diamond, maybe with king queen?
Yeah, or like we were betting small, so I mean he might even raise. So and then so the turn. Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense. Like King 10, I don't know if he plays King 10 off. That's an easy fold pre, I think. Or could be wrong on that also. Queen Jack, it's gotta be in that ballpark, King Queen, or he has to be turning pair into a bluff. Because other than that, what about Ace 10? Ace 10 is another one. King Queen, Ace 10, or he's turning pair into a bluff.
With the Ace 10 of diamonds.
Yeah.
The Ace of diamonds.
Ace of diamonds, yeah.
Yeah, see that's one that I think they're more likely to turn into a bluff because it's just like the nut blocker they have in that situation. Yeah, it's hard to find bluffs. It's hard to find. I'll put it this way: it's hard to find enough bluffs to justify a call. Mm-hmm. I think he has a few hands he could be bluffing with here, but are we good often enough when we call here? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Does he call on the button with Ace 9 with the Ace of diamonds, Ace 7 with the Ace of diamonds?
See, that's what I'm thinking is the offsuit aces below Ace 10. Are those just folds pre? They feel like folds pre to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
Right.
With the stack pressure too, it seems like you probably need to fold those.
Yeah. Now, if you can give them, a number of those, then I think this becomes a lot closer. But without those, I think Steve is right in that he's got to be turning some pairs into a bluff. And maybe he's good enough to do that. I know all these guys are very good. I just don't know if doing that is good in a high ICM pressure situation. Another question I have, like Steve mentioned that we're under-repped. I'm wondering if we are, I was going to say over-repped. I don't know if that's the right term. But we shouldn't be betting very often from out of position here, I don't think. So like I'm wondering if Villain expects us to even have this hand in our range. Like I would think this hand, and again, this is just without the ICM pressure, I strongly feel that this hand would not be a bet on the flop. But with the ICM pressure, maybe it becomes a bet, and Villain knows that. And so this is the exact type of hand that he will be trying to get us off of. And I just don't know what the next link in that chain of thought should be. That's where I get stuck, and that's why I don't play 100K high rollers.
It certainly is the kind of run out that makes it tempting to try and get someone off a one pair hand, isn't it? When the straight and the flush comes in and, you've shown aggression on the turn like that. It feels like the kind of spot where you could get a thinking player off a one pair hand.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. This is above my pay grade, guys.
Well,
you're not getting paid anything, so.
Exactly.
Well, just to give us all the results here. So Igor Kurinov does fold, and because it's a stream, we know that you've actually picked out the bluff very well. It was a bluff. He had King of Diamonds, Queen of Spades. So he had the King of Diamonds, sort of give him the flush blocker, and those two overs that he carried over and bet on that turn diamond as well.
Yeah, his so he calls pre. Yeah, see, I see his hand makes a lot of sense. With our action, I think he played his hand the way I would expect him to play it. I just don't know how many hands like this he has.
Yeah.
And is that enough to justify a call on the river? Like, what do you guys think he does with like Ace 10 with the Ace of Diamonds on the flop? Does he just call that one, or does he check raise it? Or does he raise it because he only has the one over as opposed to two?
I personally feel like those are the two bluffs I could find is the ace 10 with the ace of diamonds and the king queen with the king of diamonds. I think you're right, and I think it's really great to think about that. Even though the results here are, if he had called, it would have been a great call in that moment, but over the long haul, there aren't enough bluffs here to make this call consistently. So
Yeah.
that I think that's part of what I think is really great here is that results wise, he should have called, right? If he could see the cards, he should have called. But over the long haul, I think you can't make this call because there's just your opponent has so much more value here than they do potential bluffs.
You know, another thing that I learned a couple of years ago, and I got to give credit to Chance Carneth. This is something I learned from watching a stream he was doing. And I ended up writing an article for Poker News about this, where he talked about something called tournament equity, which is not really a concept I was familiar with. But basically it goes something like, even if this river call is a good call, which I don't think it is, what happens the times we call here and lose? We go from 1.4 to just under $1 million, and this guy goes to just over $1 million, and he's on our direct left. We're just like in the box for the next, orbit or two, maybe even more. So you kind of got to take that the future game scenarios into account, and that should lead us to be even tighter in this spot because of all the equity we lose by giving up the chip lead when we call here and we're wrong.
That's good.
Yeah,
And Rob, did you have something?
Yeah, that's very interesting the way you phrase that, because I don't think people think in those terms. You think just about that hand so much more so than you think about what the position change will be depending on which way it goes. And so that's a very interesting thought. I just had a question for you. I think we're done with the hand, right?
Yes.
So I had another question for you. I hear you on Thinking Poker podcast, and you're talking about the population that you're playing against, and you're always talking about how, well, against the people that I play against, this is the right play, or the people I play against, this is the right play. Now, we're all sitting here playing online poker a lot more than we usually do, and we're all using Poker Tracker to try to figure out what that population is doing. And I know that on Bovada or Ignition or whatever, they are anonymous, so you can't really track individual people, but you're tracking the population. How does that work? How do you make that happen?
Is not really tracking in the traditional sense, as like, because you're right, we have anonymous opponents, so we can't have a database that tells us how, someone plays. But what we do have on this site that I've never seen on any other site is 24 hours after the tournament ends, you get access to all the hole cards, even the hands that were folded. So I review pretty much every every tournament I play, and I can see how the average player on this site plays, and then I kind of exploit that in future tournaments. So some things you see over and over again, like, frequent limping is things that you would kind of expect to see. I'm very rarely surprised, but being able to see those hole cards, man, that is such a powerful study tool. And you quickly get an idea of how, the average player plays, where, I'm going to study. I take the hand history and I pull up the first hand, and I can see all the cards. And it's almost like everybody at that table besides myself is the same player, because it's anonymous. Like, you kind of have to treat it like you don't know any of these guys. So it's just like, so it's like playing against Poker Snowy, except these guys aren't good like Poker Snowy. When you play against Poker Snowy, in like you can set up like a sit and go against Poker Snowy, and you're playing against 8 copies of Poker Snowy. And because you can see how it plays 8 times in one hand, you quickly develop a feel for his game. And I kind of treat the average Bovada player the same way, even though we know these aren't the same person, the same people, but over time that, I guess, player profile kind of like, aggregates into some type of Frankenstein that's at least close to what you would expect from the average player. And I'll try to like sort it. I mean, not sort it, but split it, where I'll say, and my percentages change over time, but I'll say 70 to 80% of the players are loose passive. And you got like another probably 10% in there, 10 to 20% that's over aggressive or like maniacal. And if you're up against an unknown player and you treat him like a loose passive player, you're going to be right 80% of the time. But if he happens to be that maniacal player, you're really going to make some massive mistakes against him. But you can quickly figure that out because with so many passive players at the table, a lot of hands go to showdown. And you just see what the guy played. And, if you saw him 3-bet 7 deuce off first hand of the tournament, he's not a loose passive player. So you put him in that maniacal bucket. So you got your maniacs and you got your loose passive calling station types. And once you kind of separate them into the correct category, you got, you just apply your passive Frankenstein profile to that guy. And you apply your aggressive Frankenstein profile to that guy, and you're usually within the ballpark. And when your opponents aren't good, you don't need to be good to beat them. All you need to be is in the ballpark, especially when you live in a Prius. Don't need a lot of money to pay the rent.
That's
like
excellent.
drop the mic. There you go. Well, Carlos, I think we're going to wrap it up there just to respect your time. But this is fantastic. We loved having you on the show. It's about time we had you on, and then, man, you did not disappoint. It was a fantastic conversation. Thank you. This was a lot. This was a lot of fun. I definitely fell out of my league in that hand, but it's fun to explore the areas of poker that I don't get a chance to, my poker muscles that I don't get a chance to work out, just to, these type of conversations keep those muscles from atrophying too much, because I'm never going to get a chance to think about thinking this way when I'm playing for real money. Yeah. Well, I love it. Obviously we love chatting about it. We love learning in community, and, despite the hand was a fantastic conversation, but even some of the truths that came out of that, even like game selection, and even like, okay, yeah, I made the fold, and maybe it was a lot of us rec players get caught in this trap of that was a bad fold because they had king queen. Well, no, it wasn't a bad fold. Over the long run, that's a good fold. It just so happened this is one of the instances where we would have won the pot. And I think, just even that sort of truth that came out of this, and not being so results oriented by was that a good fold or a bad fold because of what that one player happened to have this one hand. I think that's a truth that a lot of us need to grab more and more hold of. Yeah, and even if it is a bad fold, which I don't think it is, but if it is, a bad fold is always better than a bad call. Very good. Very good. Well, Carlos, what as we let you go, any kind of final words of wisdom to the RecPoker Nation, or anything else that you have going on that you want to share? Words of wisdom: don't play 100K high rollers. Anything or big fills. Anything that I want to share? No, I'll just say, if anybody would like to get in touch with me, they can reach me on Twitter. That's where I spend a lot of my poker time when I'm not playing. And my Twitter handle is at hiphop101 trivia. Of course it is. I mean, that's what I was going to guess. Yeah. That came from before my poker days, and I just didn't change it. Love it. All right, guys. Well, if you want to get a hold of Carlos and you can't figure out how, get a hold of us and we'll get a hold of him for you. But you heard the man on Twitter, Hip Hop 101 Trivia, and listen to the podcast that he's on. Fantastic guest, fantastic personality. And someday I'd love to just chat with you and take you out for lunch and hear more of your story about living out of the Prius. And I'm sure you've had a lot of interesting life lessons that have come out of your journey too. So I'd love to explore that at some point.
Definitely.
All right, Carlos, we'll let you go there. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot,
Okay,
Carlos.
thank you, guys.
That was
Talk to you
great,
later. Bye.
All right, guys. Well, we'll hang on here. Carlos, feel free to jump off there. But guys, what sort of feedback do you have on the conversation?
Yeah, just as you said there, that point about a good fold doesn't mean that he wasn't bluffing that time. It's just you have to think about. We've spoken before about when they move an inch, you move a mile. Rob, you remember from that Thinking Poker one, and just the concept that even if they're bluffing sometimes, if they're not bluffing enough, you should still fold. You let them bluff occasionally and still fold, because the majority or enough of the time, you're still going to be making more money by folding than by calling. So that's a point that just makes so much sense to me. I love it.
I love that idea of exploitative folding, right? Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
There's a concept too that if you're never folding to a bluff, you're not folding enough.
Sure. And you always got to make sure that you're not letting results, even though you would have won the hand, can't let results affect good decisions.
Yeah, you see that all the time. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I mean that was all great too, but I love hearing Carlos talk about sort of the games he plays, why he plays them. He really knows what he's trying to do, and I think that is something that a lot of poker players maybe don't think as much about and could learn a lot from. I know that the first time I heard him talk about this was several years ago, but that was the first time I was heading to Vegas. I was going to play in the the World Series, and I had all these things on my calendar, like, okay, I'm playing this and this and this and this, because it was like, the bracelet events and the whatever events. And it really convinced me after I listened to him the next time to play one of those, sure, but maybe go try to play a daily at the Orleans or whatever, and try out some different pawns here and see, you can get your great experience, but also find games that maybe have a little bit more value in them too.
So good. John, did you have something there?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the most interesting things I think about him is he has definitely made a decision on what he wants to get out of his life. And he has oriented everything in his life to align with that. And even though it's not, living out of your car is not something that is socially normal,
right,
in our society. It's kind of weird, to tell you the truth, but it's fascinating and it works for him, and he's figured out just how to make his life work and how to make poker fit into his life. And it's just fascinating to listen to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that idea of, here's what I want to do. I want to play poker, quote unquote, recreational / pro. I want to write. How am I going to make that happen? Well, I'm not going to play the big enough stakes. I'm not going to get all this debt or, staking. So I'm going to have to reduce expenses. I'm going to live out of my car. That works fine for me and my family situation. And I don't mind it. And I'm going to get a Prius so I can have the air at night. And, I do. I love that too, John. I love that idea of saying, this is my dream. How do I make it happen? Rather than just sort of accepting the default life that he was given. So I think it's fantastic. Well, guys, let's do a little round robin here. Let's see what's going on in Rec Poker Nation. John, why don't we just go ahead and start with you?
Well, we had our first No Limit Hold'em Series game of the month, and some guy named Poker Geek MN won that one. Luck boxed his way.
This is a recording, every week. Some guy named Poker Geek MN won the tournaments. Way to go, John. Congratulations, honestly.
Well, thank you. I was really hoping to win that. I was trying to play more focused that night because I wanted to win one of the No Limit Hold'em series, and you've only got 12 shots in the year. Whereas, the social distancing series, you've got 28 or 30 in a month to try. So there's quite a big difference there.
Now, is this one where you and Rob got heads up?
I was just going to say, you guys had a really long heads-up battle, right?
2 hands.
Yeah.
It was 2 hands. I think he folded the first one, and we went all in on the second one.
Well, I figured at that point I think it was around, what, a 10-to-1 chip lead or something like that?
No, it was 20. It was 20 to 1.
Okay.
You had
20.
100,000 chips, and I had 5.
So I felt that the odds were pretty even. With those chip stacks, it was 50-50 on who was going to
Against
win.
Rob, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The first hand, I call from the big blind, or I might have raised. I don't even remember. He folds. I'm going, what could you possibly fold there? I can't believe.
Well, I had 7 deuce offsuit.
You had 7
So
deuce, yeah.
it was one of the very few hands that I would fold. But yeah. Then June 10th, we have our mixed Badoogie game coming up. And remember, there is a training video available. You can go to rec.poker and find the training video on YouTube there. And then, of course, for those of you listening to this, you will have time traveled into the future, and the May Tournament of Champions will be over. But it's going to be played shortly after we get done recording this, so we'll be able to announce who has won the second ever silver RecPoker pin.
How many of you guys are
I'm
how
not
many?
in this one.
How many?
I'm not in it.
Either. Who's in it?
No, I'm
Rob's
not in it.
John's
I'm
in
playing.
it. Just Rob and John. Nice. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to get that silver pin, which I'll never get in the mail either.
Sorry, Rob. I couldn't hear you. Could you speak directly into my pin there? There's a little connection issue.
Yeah, I never got my bronze pin, so I doubt if I'll ever get my silver pin, even if
You
I
didn't
win.
get your bronze pin?
No.
When did you win?
May 5th. I think it was over a month ago.
Oh, the May one, I send them out once a month, man. So the May
okay.
one.
All right.
So yeah, for those of you who are out there listening, so everybody who won through April, they got their pins, except Taylor Moss's got returned, which I think is actually like karma. Because he got two pins, and apparently it says it exceeds the weight, so it's considered a package. So I might just screw Taylor, keep him. But no, so the rhythm of mailing out the pins. So all of the May winners, I'm waiting till after the June Tournament of Champions for the May. So then I'll send out all the bronze and silver ones then. So Rob, you'll have.
I'll get them both then at the same time.
You'll get them both at the same time.
Yes.
I don't want to mail you the 2 envelopes.
and I should say
first.
Yeah, that's right. And I should say the care package from RecPoker US to RecPoker Canada did arrive today. So all you Canadian winners will have your pins in the mail soon. I'm happy to report.
There's 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, way to go.
All right. So then June 1st, we had Witchy Stuff, Leda.
Speaking of Canadians.
June 1st. We did not wait a single day to come in and storm the Capitol.
There it is. I've muted him.
Oh, we could all keep talking.
Yep. So the very first tournament possible, we had a Canadian winner.
Wow. Why is that significant?
That doesn't matter.
Because a Canadian winner means that Steve now needs to sing "O Canada" in some embarrassing context.
Yeah. That's wow. Wow.
Yeah, wow, you're shocked. Yeah, because you guys railroaded the last podcast. When I got out, I said, I got to go. And you guys took over, and pretty soon you ran with this thing. And for a second there, when I was listening to you guys, I thought, maybe they're going to say it doesn't count because it was a non-Canadian winner, an international winner May. And then you guys said, well, maybe let's call it a push. And man.
We did. We were trying to be generous. We said, you know what? This isn't quite official yet, so let's just make it. But it won't happen. But if it happens in June, then
June 1st.
One day. That is the kind of Canadian spirit that we needed here to support Witchy Stuff. Witchy Stuff, if you're listening to this, we are rooting. You are RecPoker famous now, Witchy Stuff. Way to go.
And that is her second social distancing.
Oh yeah, she's no blushing violet. She shows up and wins poker tournaments for Canada. That's Witchy Stuff, in case you were wondering who Witchy Stuff is.
Witchy Stuff Leda. So I don't know what that means for O Canada. I think the jury's still out, right? But there will be I did lose the wager, so
Yes.
whatever that looks like, yeah.
It's such a gentleman. Steve was such a good sport about this. And I mean, to be fair, when we started, there were only 2 tournaments a month and
Correct.
3 Canadians playing in them. So the odds did seem pretty deep. But God bless him, you opened it up to some social distancing series. We got some international support. We got the International Brigade bumping in there in May to keep it alive. And then June, witchy stuff, sealing the deal. Feels good. Now, we did talk about making it a little more embarrassing now because we've had this extra time. So I want to think about some crowdsourcing we can do. RecPoker Nation, I mean, really, you should email me, Jim at rec.poker, and send me some fun ideas. I don't think Steve needs to know about them all.
Email it to me, baby. I can filter.
But hit us up on Twitter. Send something to @RecPoker on Twitter with some fun ideas about wardrobe, maybe some choreography. I think there's a lot of ways we can spice up this national anthem. Maybe some fun harmonizing options, backdrops. Let's think about ways that we can really bring out the spectacle of this, because I feel like we've got a lot of room to
video.
run.
Also, you could have a video of something behind it too.
Oh yeah. I like this.
Like the possibilities are endless.
Or something,
Left shark.
Anything that is tastefully embarrassing is kind of our goal there.
I'll work on my lip syncing in the meantime.
No. No lip syncing.
No, and we're definitely putting it on the podcast. I think we're definitely having like a little bumper at the. I think, I mean, maybe even just like the first verse at the very beginning, and then like the meat of the podcast, and then like, I don't know, something. I'm just really excited about this. I don't know if you can tell. But congratulations, Steve. Hats off to you, man. Well done to be such a good sport about this. We all can't wait to.
It's fun. It's fun.
Take it all in.
Okay, I just want everyone
poor
to
John
know
trying to get through.
It's not my fault that my round robin always takes the longest.
I know. I was going to say, John never gets through his stuff. Like, this just derailed John as much as possible.
All right, so June 2nd, Megra 44, Doug Drabeck won his third social distancing series win. And then on June 4th, I Hate to Lose, William Alexander, who is a dealer at Running Aces, won his first social distancing series. On June 5th, just to make sure that everything was still valid, we had another Canadian, Bluff Starimi, our very own Jim Reed, winning his third social distancing series.
Bringing in the troops the first week of June.
Exactly. On June 6th, Hawsey 8, Michael Hawes won his third social distancing series tournament. And on June 7th, back for more, Megra 44, Doug Drabeck won his fourth social distancing series.
Nice job,
tournament.
Doug.
Wow. That
Double
guy,
D.
are we sure he's not
Double
Canadian?
D.
Because that's the kind of Canadian spirit we've come to expect of our members here at RecPoker.
Well, Rob?
They call him Double D, don't we?
Double D.
Oh,
D,
yeah. Megra.
His kid has won one on there too. So they're
He's a beast.
up. Yeah. Well, thank you, John, for all your work on that. I know people just love it, and man, what a fun time we have. I just love chatting out there. And like you said, half hour from now when we're recording this thing, the silver pin contest will start. We'll let you know next week who wins this thing. But exciting time for a lot of folks. I had a lot of notes today, even people saying, just want to make sure that I'm in, that kind of thing. People are fired up to try to go after that second silver pin. So thanks for that, John.
And actually, during this recording, I've already approved another member to the poker club.
Good.
And I won the lottery, so I'll be the loser who's recording the final table tonight, so we can release that to our membership later in the month as well. So even if you're not playing in it, you'll get to see how these sharks and crushers get to play the final table with the silver rec.poker pin on the line.
Yeah, that's right. We do have the recording from the last one out there. If you're a member, you can go watch the final table of the silver TOC. It's kind of fun to get an edge on folks and see how they're playing. Good stuff. Well, why don't we shift gears, Chris? What do we got coming up?
So June is still 3 betting month. So we have got our seminar out, and we'll be doing our strategy chat, our strat chat on June 24th. So if you're a member, tune in for that. And then we're gearing up for our July seminar, which is all about bluffing. Should be really good.
So combining those two things. So I just need to come clean. Taylor's not here, so I need to vent a little bit. So last night in the home game, So Taylor comes to our table, and it's my big blind, and he puts right in the chat, whose big blind is it? And so he goes ahead and raises. And I'm sitting there with like 12 big blinds with ace queen of diamonds. So against a Taylor open, like that's an auto rip. So I'm going to practice my 3 betting, even though it's kind of a unique situation. So I go ahead and jam. He goes in the tank. I'm like, sweet, you can't chat while the stuff is out there. So I type it up nice and good. So when he calls or folds, I can quick hit enter. And I'm like, oh man, tanking, this is great. This is good for me that he's tanking, blah, 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 blah. And so then he calls and I hit the button, and then he flips over kings. He slow rolled me, and he just had a ball with it. And he goes on Twitter and he talks about the slow roll. It was all in good fun. But I'm like, Taylor, no. I thought, oh God, this sucks. So there you go, 3 betting home game. Taylor Moss rubbing it in on the old man.
There you go.
Good stuff. All right. Anything else, Chris?
No, that's it.
All
Well,
right.
I assume your ace queen didn't catch up.
No, it didn't, of course. No, of course it didn't. Even if it did, though, it was a pretty sweet slow roll moment. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, please call. Like, I'm in the chat, like, yes, please call. Let's go if you're thinking about it. I don't care if you got 5s or whatever. I need a double, But no, they did not catch up.
No, you don't want him to have 5s. You don't want him to have 5s.
I wanted to have 5s.
Why would you wish that? That's
guaranteed winner every
that's
time.
That's a nightmare wish on yourself.
Yeah. No, he eliminated me. All right, Andrew, why don't we see what you got going on?
All right, so Wednesday, June 10th, so this Wednesday, we do have another Learning with Partners at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 6:30. But in the meantime, you guys can go to rec.poker/resources. We got a lot of good stuff going on there right now. Solve for Y is still $9.99. Incredible deal for that one. But then just starting yesterday, and it is posted today now, Learn Pro Poker just launched their post-flop summer sale. They added a bunch of post-flop video content and have lowered membership prices to $30 a month. And then also they have a 305 yearly that ends July 1st. So that is new as of yesterday. Go check that out at rec.poker/resources. Great deals out there right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for being on top of all that stuff. I know they put out different things from time to time, and Andrew always says, hey, we got the new deal, get it out there. And so we put it out there, and it's a great way to support us. Well, you get great education, too, is use our link and sign up there. So thank you, Andrew. And I don't know what Ryan has planned for LPP going forward, but that's what Taylor was a part of Learn Pro Poker. He ended up playing for that $10,000 seat in that final 8. So I assume Ryan will have things like that going forward with Learn Pro Poker as well.
Yeah, I would guess so too, because that was pretty popular, that contest. So I'm assuming that kind of stuff will happen in the future.
Yeah. Robert.
Hey, what's happening?
You tell me, man. Just hanging out with some pretty cool people. That's all.
Yeah, this is fun stuff.
Yeah.
June 17th, the book study starts. The Game Plan by Matt Matros. Matt was a guest on the RecPoker podcast at one time, talking about the book and some other things. That was very cool. We have a contest going on right now. It's a Twitter contest. And if you start, even just starting today, you can get 7 entries for a free book. If you can enter once a day on Twitter, all you have to do is tag Matt_Matros, mention hashtag RecPoker community and hashtag book study, and you'll be entered into a contest that we will be giving away the book on June 15th, just in time to read the first chapter and be part of the book study starting on the 17th. So get your Twitter fingers going, get it out there, get your tweets happening. Like I say, you can get 7 more entries if you've already got the first, 6, whatever, but you could get up to, actually 7. If you could have up to 14 entries if you do it every day from June 1st. And even if you haven't yet, you can still get 7 more.
Those are pretty good odds.
I want to know what Twitter fingers look like. and just so people know too, the copy of the book that you'll get is a PDF. So you think, oh well, if it's starting the 17th and it's the 15th, I won't have time for it to actually get to you. We'll immediately send it to you a PDF, so you will be able to start it right away. Great stuff, Rob. That's exciting.
And
ahead,
we're
Jim.
planning that first meeting to be mostly like a get to know the book, get to know each other, talk about the table of contents, sort of like make a plan for what's going forward. So even if you're not, even if you haven't read the first chapter, you can still come on the 17th, and we'll go through the plan for everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Rob, I can tell already is excited about this, talking to him, and it is a great book. So I can't wait to get my teeth into this one.
Love it. Well, why don't we just segue right into you there, Jim? What do you got going on?
Well, we're just so darn excited about this new website still coming along. We've got some of the guys here in there doing some secret shopping, beta testing kind of stuff right now. And I just want to whip the curtain off and, and show everyone all the exciting stuff. But we can't. We're not quite there yet. But I think the thing I really want to talk about is this is the RecPoker community coming to life in front of our eyes here. This is when we've talked about the RecPoker community before, this is what we're talking about. And if you want to, you can just come with an email address, sign up for a free account. You're going to have a community membership here at rec.poker with forums, groups with different interests. There's going to be videos or events every single day. Every single day, there's going to be a video or an event that you can watch or engage with and talk to other members about. Forums to talk about different strategy things. I'm really excited to see how the members themselves are going to make the most out of this community that we're building, and I just can't wait to get there any day. Well, no, I shouldn't even say that, but soon.
It is, as one of the people who's had a sneak peek, it is looking pretty good. It'll be very useful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like Jim said, what we've really, our differentiator, there's a lot of folks out there that are doing content. I stand by our content. I think it's phenomenal. Like the seminars that Chris puts together, I think the partner stuff that Andrew shares, I think it's phenomenal, top end stuff. I really believe that for recreational players. But I think really the key differentiator is that community piece of it. Hopefully you guys get a flavor of it through the podcast, but that's what this is. It's an encouraging, it's a vibrant community of us learning the game together and having fun along the way and building relationships. And I think, we've been, where we're falling short is we haven't had a good tool to help facilitate that community building. And this website is really built around this idea of how do we get people together that have common interests and start to build those relationships and learn the game together in the way that we want. And this tool is really going to pave the way for that. And then open the door for real strong learning as far as you want to take that. So I'm really encouraged by the work that Jim has done, website Mark has done on this thing, and all of you guys that have taken a look at that and said, hey, let's tweak this, let's make this a little bit more user-friendly. That stuff's all super friendly, super helpful. So I am really excited about it. It's been a long time coming. We keep talking about it, but we want to get it right before we release it, and we are getting really close now. So thanks for all of your work on that. Anything else, Jim, that you wanted to share?
No, just keep on showing up, Canadians, and spanking these Yanks.
Easy. So a couple things for me real quick. The next Play and Hang is June 17th. We're trying to wrestle up some pros and some personalities to stop by and hang with us. We'll be making the announcements on who those folks are that get to do it. A reminder, we're going to do a one table, just a single table tournament, hanging out. We'll do a Zoom call, myself, some of the folks that have played the home game before, and then we'll bring some folks in to hang out with us. I know Sarah Herring has already committed. We've got a few others that are interested. If you know Sarah Herring from Poker News and other things, she said, yeah, I'll swing by. That sounds like a blast. So she'll be there at least on the 17th to hang out with us for a while. And I already mentioned the pins are being mailed this week. So Rob, settle down. The May winners and the Tournament of Champion winner determined tonight will be mailed out. And there's still a few of you that I don't have mailing addresses for. You're not really responding when we're reaching out to you as we play. So we're trying our best. If you haven't gotten a pin and you think you should have, get a hold of me, Steve at rec.poker, and let me know your address, and then we can get in touch with you that way. So with that, anything that we missed, guys? Anything else that you think we need to share for the good of the order? All right. Well, check out rec.poker. Sign up for our newsletter. It's a great way to stay informed. Thank you to Running Aces, Racetrack, Hotel, Casino, Website AMP, and Learn Pro Poker. Thanks to Carlos Welch. Fantastic conversation with him. Thanks to our panel as well. I should give Chris a shout out as well. He joined us right as we were getting going. But Chris and John and Jim and Andrew and Rob, thanks you guys. It's always a blast, and we will catch you next time.